going to be, how you're going to ask departments across the city to make cuts seems a bit irresponsible. My second point is to not even define about what those expenses would be. So you're talking about mileage reimbursement, traveling around the district. Shamari in the house, we're talking about traveling from here to, believe it or not, to give you an example.
Aruba.
No.
Oh.
Higgs home away from home.
State line?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, oh.
For different types of retreats and things like that, because it was a.
Yeah.
What was
It
it?
was some kind of
All right.
I don't know what it was.
Dermatologizing believes the ordinance was tabled because it's particularly unpopular. Oh, it's politically unpopular, particularly when various departments could be facing budget cuts. It got tabled. I like Markovich. McDermott said, don't get me wrong, I just sort of went to that too myself. I think he just made a mistake and we fixed it. What do you think? Is this good government at work here, or what do you think? The move to allow them to speak, not the $5,000.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about
sorry.
that. Okay. So there are lots of organizations. I don't know the Hammond City Council rules on public comment. So for instance, the school city, they have 2 sessions of public comment. They're looking at changing that, and they have some pretty onerous rules that they're looking at implementing, allowing you to only speak as to agenda items. But if they are allowing people to speak, you cannot prohibit a political opponent from speaking. And so, yeah, I mean, I think they're in trouble if that's the case.
I think Mayor McDermott, knowing his position for as long, he's probably read everything you can read on it after all these years.
No, and I mean
he's got it on the back of his hand, being an attorney.
And having a staff of attorneys with him and all those things. Yeah, no, he's a very bright guy, and I'm sure he's right on that point. Higgs, is known for not known for supporting the First Amendment. He sued Matthew Markovich. He's
Can I go full salt and pepper? See, wait, I'm going to get sued here. I get it. Yeah, that crashed and burned though, didn't it?
Yeah.
Too well.
Well, there's an anti-SLAPP statute in Indiana which says you can speak, out on public expression is protected, basically, even more so than the First Amendment by statute.
Geez, now you're sort of enticing me to read this entire crazy personal thread
about Trump.
Trump, yeah. Crazy people. I'm amazed. And the only ones that are defending Trump, again, I'm talking about I'm just going to go with the bus incident. Beyond whatever you can say, I mean, the only people that are only defending him are women. Which is
I defended him.
Well, I'm going to talk to you. But after dinner, after we have dinner together, you won't feel that way. This is again. What do you think about the money? I mean, we need people gaining. Do you think that the salary for this is
first,
too much?
First of all, let's say this. Let's just be honest. Probably the overwhelming majority of conferences are vacations.
Yeah.
Cheryl Pruitt did not stay in a $300 a night hotel to go and learn something about the Gary Community School Corporation.
Right.
She went out there, and somebody was with her. We still don't know who. She went out there on a little mini vacation. The Calumet Township Trustee's office did not go to Aruba to learn how to communicate with minorities, and Karen Freeman Wilson didn't go to Aruba to learn how to communicate with minorities, and Renzer Williams didn't go to Aruba to learn how to speak. But we don't generally hear about these conferences, and this is sort of a way to make it so that we hear about them less, right? Sure. If you get automatic funding and you don't have to review each one on a case-by-case basis, then nobody ever hears about it, right? Because you only spent your $5,000. It would only be when you go over the $5,000. Or if you fall down in the hotel and try to sue, and then the records come back.
Fell over your own bags that you brought with you to the space that you're standing in. I agree. I do agree on one thing with him. I do enjoy free cocktails. So let's go to MX. MX, how are you?
MX, if you got a show on XM radio, it could be MX on XM. That would be awesome.
It would be. It's good to hear your voice, dude.
Hey.
I just ran into him, I don't know, how many weeks ago was that? I went at the old Van Til's.
I talk to people that try to literally run into him all the time.
Yeah, but he's our max baby. He just takes them two-wheeler right around him. What's going on, bro? Yeah. Sure. Okay. Really? I'm hearing you. I'm listening. Yeah, but this was actionable. We were saying this could possibly be actionable against the town or the city. I think at least he should do so to save us all money if you're living here. Hammond. In this case, I agree with you though. Practice it. All right. Thanks,
Well-
Alex. Great. You sound great, by the way. Does he ever age his voice never?
Right,
I know
yeah.
him 10 years now.
He still looks pretty
All right,
young.
He looks exactly the same. Exactly.
He looks just like that guy that used to do traffic for the preacher.
Is that the same?
Traffic and weather.
MX, you know what? MX produced for me before, by the way. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Oh yeah, I remember one time he did.
I think a couple times, like
Okay.
twice. We spent this whole show together, taking phone calls and talking. It was very good. I gotta take a quick break.
Okay.
That's a good transition.
Then we're gonna jump into AOC and the
You
new
want to, right.
the New Deal and Eric Holcomb Ocasio.
Right, Schneider
And,
going to jury real soon. We had
That's a
we had a guy plead the fifth. So we got a lot of amendments going.
that's an interesting case. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting case. It's we're gonna see what happens with that one.
Right on. It's Dell Wednesday. Catch him on our show, our station, just before us here, and Rick Kubrick on Fridays on AM 1230 FM 104.7 WJB.
We have a short break and we'll be right back. I'm on my live, so.
Right. So the improv thing, I had people going to literally put their heads in the corner all the way around the place.
Okay.
Play this new game I call Armed and Dangerous.
Okay.
It's like 5 things. It was sort of, okay, it was, I gave, Erin was a wine connoisseur. She's probably done it the most, so I started with her, moved improv. Of people that were there, I was good Peggy had done more. Peggy wasn't there.
Aaron's good though.
Peggy wasn't good there. You know, she crushed yesterday. Crushed. And the deal was,
Well,
you're
I'm
a
live,
wine
by the
connoisseur.
way.
What are you gonna arm yourself with going into this thing? I wanna know what's in your hand.
Okay.
What's your point of view on this? What's your name? Who's at this party? Where's the party? Location wise? And I threw an extra thing in, and what's your wild card? Something goofy, weird to throw in there that always makes improv scenes sort of, and again, I make
Right.
this up in my head. That makes something weird. She goes, I'm all these things and I also beat my husband. That was one of them. So everybody went around and did their things and did their things. And then I took them to the stage and they had to do characters with these things.
Okay.
And it didn't turn out bad. It turned out pretty well actually, because I sort of linked people together. Like Bob, Bob Matson.
Yeah.
He was a ticket taker and somehow he ended up with, I made Ryan Danzig himself. He was.
Okay.
So he had a ball. He had Danzig. So that went real well. And then I just got to want to say this one scene that just proves that Bob Matson is.
He is,
way up.
yeah.
He is physically. And then, I don't even remember the suggestion, but it was Peggy. Again, I think Peggy doesn't like the fact that she don't get a lot of laughs. But I'm like, without you suggesting that, Bob, don't do that.
Right.
She goes, because I gave him the suggestion, wobble. Not
Okay.
Weevil, wobble. So Peggy's doing this thing, and then she started talking about her. And when I was a kid, my little sister, she did, they had this thing with the clown, I used to push the clown, and we'll go, and so she talks it right, and it keeps, remember that clown thing that she had to keep
Yeah,
going back?
yeah.
So she keeps hitting it, she keeps it, so Bob sort of got nothing on him, almost, he don't really have anything in this thing, which he's known to do, sort of.
Right,
on the other
right.
And I go, freeze, cut back in time, Bob, you're the younger sister, Peggy,
Okay.
you're the older sister, Bob starts doing it right. He goes, I'm gonna tell on you, and you're this thing. He's on his knees, by the way.
Yeah.
Bob is all the way right
Okay.
now. Peggy right in front. I'm gonna tell on you. She said, there was a lot of cuss words yesterday too. Peggy did blow off her hand, by the way, in some scene. I'm not kidding you.
She
It
what?
wasn't that.
Oh.
Certainly, it wasn't her. It wasn't her initiation. I think it was something that Ryan magic,
Okay.
pixie dust or something like that. So they're arguing. Sooner or later, Peggy, not right in front, pushes him and just knocks him down. In a half a second, Bob pops right back up and right in your face, just like the thing, right? Like he gets back up, she does it again. She's still yelling at him. So I go, well, they did it twice. I'm not stopping this scene until tomorrow if she doesn't do it one more time. And check this out again, Bob, shaking. Again, you need that curveball, right? You need the curveball. He's the niece, he's the sister. She does knock him down at the end of the scene, but when when he pops back up this time, he's way on the other side of the stage area from her, so he can't get pushed down anymore. It's kind of fun. I was like, I mean, Ryan was saying, like, even after he got through, he goes, you just can't. You just can't beat that quick. Oh, in the preliminary, I'll be right back. I played too many spots. In that preliminary thing, I made Debbie remote control. So I hooked her up with the wine connoisseur tour. Her first move was, remember, she went to go to talk to Aaron. Debbie kept running behind her. And it was right away. She knew, where's that damn remote? And Debbie
She's got
Great
decent,
instinct.
she's got decent instincts, yeah.
Great instance.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, Silo here. It's 4:20 in the region. Ken Davidson alongside us. Just a quick plug again. We had a great improv class yesterday. I think you guys are going to really like the shows we have coming up. March 15th, March 30th at Beatniks. March 15th will probably be a more veteran show, which I'll be performing in. The 30th is a student show where I'm sort of the host. But from class yesterday, I got a good feeling about this particular group.
good
We
class.
did have, your mic's down. We did have 7 people show up only. I didn't hear from everybody, but then, how about them roads yesterday?
Yeah, yeah.
I was on 175th to go to Alexander to my house. I was going 5. The stop sign's there. I stopped. I'm going to stop at the stop sign, right? Heck no. If there was a car right there, I stopped on the curb across the street. I had to put my car in reverse
And get out.
to turn left
Yeah.
to go down to my house.
And
Insane.
I didn't really notice it until I went to get out. You pull
Right?
over, you park,
Oh.
you step out, and you're like,
My
whoa.
wife was watching from the door,
Right.
cracking up as I'm trying to, slide into the house.
Oh,
Right, Ken's here today, he's done some research, we've all done a little bit on the Green Deal. It
The
has a
Green
lot
New Deal.
It's called the Green New Deal?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
the Green New Deal, and what I want to start with, you said there's 7, we only have 100 senators. 7, that means some Republicans.
No, 70 representatives,
Oh,
so there's
okay,
535 total,
Okay.
4 major presidential candidates. Now, Senator Bob Markey is one of the co-sponsors of this, which is, by the way, written like a 5th grader wrote it. I don't know if that's
haven't
intentional
read
or
it.
not, because the people that they're trying to appeal to probably are not literate either.
Like the
But-
ones defend. Here's what I'm saying. Again, if you guys are listening over here that are around this thing, I can't help but rip you about that are defending Trump. The ones from my Highland school days, literally. I'm sorry to say it, gang. You're literally as far as class rank. You guys were, at least halfway down to the bottom.
I was-
The burnouts are defending Trump on my page. Remember that phrase, the burnouts?
Yes.
Yeah, the burnouts are defending Trump on my page. Someone said, well, just because you're on the other end of the political spectrum, does this person know me at all? Right? The thing was, like I said, I had to unfriend her because
Well-
I know the name, but I couldn't pick you out of a lineup of 2. I think we went to high school together. I don't know. All right, Green Deal, what's on your mind?
So what strikes me and what struck me right off the bat is, aside from a few clearly socialist principles that are probably never going to, well, I should say they're never going to get enacted, but they have nothing to do with the Green New Deal. Like, I don't know, I was watching, various news networks, and they mentioned nothing about the proposal for a universal basic income. I don't know if you even know that that's in there.
Well, this is
And
something,
so,
is this the two stacks, the incapable and the unwilling?
yes,
Okay.
yes, and
Two words.
so basically, there was a proposal in Chicago last year, and there are proposals in various places around the country for what's called a universal basic income, and that says that we are not going to ask why you're not working. If you are not working, you are entitled to a monthly check based on what we determine is the cost of living. And-
That's not too, that's not imposing on your life too much.
Well-
I mean, that means that their decision's gonna decide whether you eat caviar or SpaghettiOs, right? I mean, they could put like, well, we only give you $15 a day.
Well,
Or
and
it could be
and
5,000 a day.
and you know, there was a woman who emigrated from China that wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend, and you know, many people probably didn't see it, but she made that very point, was that, yeah, in China we had socialism, and the government determined what we ate and how much we ate.
Oh, wow.
And that was not a very pleasant situation,
gonna
and
work.
that's why it came to the United States. It is going to work, because who controls the indoctrination of your children? The socialists. So they're going to teach your children that they should eat Cheerios, right, or drink urine, if that's the case.
You ran,
Uh,
it cuts to
you know, but all of that aside, and I think that one of the things that you have to keep in mind, and I hope that people are critical thinkers enough to understand, is
That's what I was hoping about
that
the goofball post.
that lots of things could be good ideas. That doesn't mean that they're good ideas for the United States government to take control of. Health insurance and medical care are good ideas. They're great ideas. They're, you know, but it doesn't mean that it's a good idea for the United States government to take control of the healthcare market.
Right on.
So,
Have they even
And-
determined an estimate of jobs lost? I mean,
well, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about it from the standpoint of the region and the impact that it would have on the region. And then I wanted to go into the Marquette Plan, because obviously Pete Visclosky is way ahead of Alexandria Crazy Eyes Cortez in
come on, let's be nice.
in the New Green Deal, because Visclosky's been pushing the region's New Green Deal for 30 years, right?
Okay.
I mean, the train to Munster is part of, what does she talk about? Trains. We need to have trains everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
She's
That's
high
part of
speed, I want
Visclosky's. They don't have any high-speed rail. That's a sales pitch. They have no high-speed rail in the United States. They lie to you, and if they can at some point Chuck can call in and talk about this.
Can we start?
If,
I mean, how do you start?
if
Think
at
it's
some-
useful?
Look, it's so expensive that we just don't even bother. Okay, now Elon Musk has these proposals for the Hyperloop and all that. We'll see how that works out. But as far as true high-speed rail in the United States, if we can get an old diesel locomotive over 100 miles an hour, we call that high-speed rail. Yeah, but we don't even bother trying that in the region. We just like our trains to run on sunny days at about 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And we're content with that. If you can't get to work when it sleets, snows, windy, rainy, that's okay. You know, your employer will understand. Or your family will understand that you only get a paycheck, you know,
What-
2 out of 5
that makes me-
days.
That makes me think so. Here's my guarantee. There's not a lot of surgical doctors taking the South Shore, right? Because they're not gonna, you know, I got, you know, someone's brain, I'm gonna be in someone's brain in about 25 minutes.
Right, right. I mean, every train is delayed. I mean, they're delayed so often. You know, the past all week, you know, nothing but delay, like on every train. But regardless, I mean, that's what happens when you have any government at any level taking over your life. I mean, do you really want to subject your life? Nobody wants to ride that train. People ride that train because they have to. Do you want that kind of control and that kind of incompetence ruling your life? That's what is going on here. And the Republicans in Indiana have jumped all aboard. They could not be more in support of the Visclosky-Marquette plan. Now let's talk about some of the features of the Visclosky-Marquette plan, right? So one of the things, and this was one of the principles of the establishment of the RDA. We've never really talked about this on the radio before, but the Northwest Indiana Regional Development Authority was created to foist the Marquette Plan on the people of Northwest Indiana. Okay, and so the principles that the RDA was founded on are similar to the principles of the Marquette Plan. They don't incorporate all of them in their original mission, but they incorporate a lot of them. Okay? Now, why would you have to give it to the RDA? Because the people are never going to vote for your crazy plan. So we have to take the power away from elected leaders and make the decisions in a basement in Crown Point, right?
Right? But not before you pay off the
With
student loan.
with no meeting minutes, no recordings, nothing. Unaccountable people who sit there and stare at you if you make public comment, try to cut you off. They won't give you public records. You can't get any information out of them. All those things that, we pass laws that you can't sue them. We pass laws that they're not, there's no conflict of interest provisions that apply to them. They can own all of the land all around the train station, and that's not a conflict of interest, and not pay any taxes on it, by the way.
Well, that's like paying taxes to yourself. They're all in the same bowl of
Well-
stew.
Well, regardless, I mean, if I lived in Munster, I would be talking about that a lot more, especially with election coming up, since I think everyone on the council is connected to Community Foundation, which is the reason that they had to have 2 school referendums. But I digress.
That's another story.
So
Do that tomorrow.
the plan, if you watch the movie Hunger Games,
I've seen all of them. They're fantastic. The first one is unbelievably good.
it's a really good sort of sci-fi action movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, the hierarchy. or
But
whatever.
this is literally drawn from Agenda 21, which is where all of these plans come from. Okay? And so the idea that we are going to put people, pack them closer into the cities, that there's going to be this Chicago megalopolis that stretches from Chicago all the way into Michigan, which, by the way, is part of us, right? So she talks about rebuilding or retrofitting every building in America. Okay? And no talk about the cost of that, obviously, and people balk and they laugh. But what are we doing here? What are we doing in Northwest Indiana right now? We are tearing down as many homes as we possibly can, right? We are talking about clearing entire sections of cities with state and federal funding so that they can come in and rebuild new buildings, right?
Right?
And all of those new buildings under the plan are going to be high-rise buildings that cram people closer together, as many people as possible closer in, right? I mean, we saw Doug Farr. He came in and he said, we want 5 stories. We want an urban wall along Ridge Road in Munster. Well, what would that entail? That would entail tearing everything that's there down, right?
Absolutely.
And the difference, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of that if the market does it, right? If I sell my property to somebody and they tear it down, that's their business. But when government acts, they have to force people to do things or incentivize people to do things, or both. And so the one thing that they have to do is they have to force someone, namely you, or your children, or your grandchildren, or your cousins, or nieces and nephews, or whatever, to pay for it, right? Because it's easy to say, I'm going to build a 5-story building with somebody else's money,
Right?
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 And-
that's my favorite thing to do, OPM.
And,
Study
and,
about it in college.
and there's no analysis of return on investment, right?
No.
I mean,
Just,
you can build a $20 million sportsplex and claim it a raving success, even though
It's
it
disgusting argument.
even though it loses money, it provides jobs for your friends and family. That's all that matters.
It's common. Have you been over there lately? You haven't been over there?
I am not
Walking
going there. We've
Wednesday
had
was
that.
amazing. Again, I've been sick of it.
I don't want to digress onto
All right.
the Talon Family Sports Complex, but regardless, within the region, we see elements of Ocasio's new Green New Deal already, right? I mean, they want to spend the plan right now that's in writing that I can pull up and I can show you is for the RDA to spend $700 million of taxpayer money tearing down houses and clearing land near train stations in order to build high-rise mixed-use multifamily dwellings. I mean, that's their plan right now. They admit it. $700 million to prepare these areas for their friends to come in and take the land for free, build on it, get tax incentives, get new market.
Oh, yeah, because we wouldn't be able to get them to build it if we didn't give them.
Right, new market tax
abatements.
credits. Well, not only that, but new market tax credits, abatements, low-income housing tax credits, HUD guaranteed 0% loans or close to 0% loans. They basically walk away when the building's done with more money than they put into it and now own a building
that can make it
that
right.
turns a profit right off the bat because they didn't have to buy land, they didn't have to buy infrastructure, they didn't have to buy anything, right?
Yeah, they have no debt,
Um,
other than construction
so,
costs.
so people laugh at Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal,
I think a
but
lot of people
who do we have in the political spectrum that's gonna oppose it? If we have our Lake County Republicans, Andy Quinnell, Dan Dumazich, all the big Lake County Republicans going, I like that because my company's gonna make money on it, right?
I'll bet, yeah, anybody that's gonna get a, that's always the case.
I mean,
I'm gonna get a contract on the deal, like, again, I mean,
What about having some principles? What about standing up for what your country was founded on and making a living in an honest way or not making a living? I mean, you and I could probably make more money if we wanted to do
I'll
something
bet
like
you.
that,
I'm not-
but we don't do it because we believe in something, right?
Right.
We believe in this country as a free market economy, not as some kind of Stalinist, quasi-fascist socialist
Yeah,
system.
I mean, it's like, you're almost
I
making,
mean-
it feels like you're making internment camps. We gotta make sure we got at least a bed for everybody.
And in that respect, I would say that the Republicans, particularly in Indiana, are much worse than Ocasio-Cortez. At least she is honest and says I'm a socialist and this is what I believe in. These people will pander to people and tell them and wave the American flag in their face and then try to sell them on issues, but yet at the same time, in the back door, sell them down the road to NIPSCO and multifamily developers.
One last thing before we go to break, as I've said in the past, I will say going forward. When, what do I say? Beware when Doug Farr is near.
Real quick, when we come back, we're going to talk about what this plan would mean for BP, Middle Steel, U.S. Steel, and other employers throughout the region.
All right,
And
thank-
Ford, of course. Ford's done, I mean, under
Oh,
this
yeah.
plan. I mean, no question.
I'm just gonna
Zero,
walk.
zero carbon.
I'm just gonna walk, dude. I already reviewed it. Good fire. Good stuff. I'm learning even the long way.
But
Give
is
me
it?
an example of how
do you
it's
s-
written so juvenilely.
oh, you didn't see it?
No, I've just been taking stuff off of the internet.
Uh,
I mean, off of.
oh, I mean, it's just absolutely awful.
What do you, Shoops? What do you think? Shoops?
I actually can't go to dinner. I have,
You maybe eat chicken noodles and all the time.
Uh,
I'm supposed to, but I
well, I mean, I could
Maybe
see.
one of them. What's one of them?
No, you know what? I could,
Oh, shoot. Wait.
I could go to Soups real quick. Let's do that.
Haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because they're like trying to keep people from seeing the actual document.
I just remember that. I always go back to the Michelle fame and say, he's on the phone. He's trying to get our information. What? You work for us, lady.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I said to the guy. I go, dude, I don't go to them. They come to me. If I've asked him for an answer and I haven't got it.
Right,
He goes,
and
we
then-
should go and contact them. And like, then they said I should go to the offices and then hit them up one by one. I go, you realize we have telephones, we have social media. I mean, this is some retired guy from Inland Steel. That certainly is guaranteed that was all orchestrated. There's no way that Lefty just did that out of his own pocket. It was an opportunity. It was in his Joel to shut me up. And I just got louder. I want to do the donations thing for the fire too. When we start.
What Which,
Hey, buddy, we had the great Pastor Ryan Perriman on the show yesterday. He's the pastor of the Community Church of Christ Church, apologies, at 8629 Kennedy Avenue in Highland. He is one of the leaders in the recovery efforts for those who lost everything in the Hamptons in Highland apartment blaze. Donations can be dropped off Monday through Thursday from 5 to 8. You can do a little bit before, a little after, he said. They've been working late nights over there. If you want to call, donate, give a gift card, they need gift cards, they need toiletries were the two things that he described most, because they don't have a stove, they don't have a place to cook right now. About half of them have found homes, about half are staying with family members. Phone number 219-237-8985. Let's go to Matt. Matt. Good, what's on your mind? Alright, great. That's okay, are you agreeing with that, me? Right? Explain what? Tell me what? Tell me what? Yeah, in your words. Wow! Breaking news. That's pretty big. Now, I gotta give you credit there. Thanks, Batman. Thanks, buddy. Cardi B, did you hear? She thanked Tom Petty for the flowers that he sent.
I didn't. Okay.
That's an article. I mean, I read it.
Okay.
He has been dead for over a year.
Oh.
That's what
Yeah,
you
people-
gave a rap album of the year, people, folks.
People order ahead of time, you
The
know.
first statement she said in her, did you hear they said the speech? The first, you go, I'm so nervous, I should start smoking weed. That's her first line.
We got
We
a
start
good.
admiring some different types of people, I think.
I can't hear Chuck on my live feed, but or Mad Mac, but
You can't hear them in your ears?
no, when I do my live feed, they're
Oh,
not gonna
okay.
they're not gonna hear the callers, but that's all right.
You
But
can, oh, yeah.
I'll try to rework it later or
Right.
something.
That's what we're worried about here.
We got a lot of people calling.
Right, let's
And
go.
I hope that we can stick to the Green New Deal Marquette plan. Ned, I really want to hear his call. I really want to hear his take on this. So,
Hey, Ned, thanks for calling.
hey, Ned.
No kidding. Excellent, by the way. Congratulations on that. I know a little bit about that organization, and I think that's quality education.
In Hammond, right.
All right? Awesome. That's great to hear.
And your kids have been on the radio here with us.
Yeah, do you
So,
know who this is?
yeah, it's Roz's.
Oh, I know Ross. Sure.
Well, bring him in.
It's equal opportunity hazing. Yeah.
So exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
Just No, they actually do that. They actually do that. They go, we got to get a Democrat from that region on this bill. What do we have to give him or her to get him or her on it? Exactly.
Because they
Right.
know they're always going to be blue here in Northwest Indiana. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
and they might as well have one that's for sale cheap.
Man, that's a good point, Ned.
Right. I have a better I have a better plan. I don't even know if they're honest. If they're in, they're out. Just if there's somebody running against
That's
somebody
fine.
who's in office,
We've heard
vote
that
for the person who's running against them. Just
Ned-
try somebody new. If they don't
Well,
work, we'll
Ned,
get them out next
last-
time.
we got a lot of life to go, Ned, but I understand why. Good.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good
and how can you say you're a consultant and not list who you're consulting for And that's any kind of disclosure. And there are several. That's not calling anyone in particular out. There are multiple that, when Charlie Brown got caught getting paid under the table by NIPSCO, all he did was then listed in the future that he was a consultant.
Yeah, just we got the biggest pencil erasers on the planet here.
For years and years, he was getting paid, and the Ethics Commission gave him some kind of a reprimand or something. I mean, you should be put in jail for that, you know? Right.
Thanks, Ned.
Exactly.
I want to say I certainly understand why you listen to the show, because I talk similar to that. I feel at least.
Thanks, Ned.
Thanks, buddy. The idea, the one you said about if they're in, they're out.
Yes.
I've made this statement many times that it's like that bad breakup. If it takes the next, that
Right. The rebound girl. Right.
If you don't get it, you're out too.
Right.
I give you a year. Figure it out.
Exactly.
Let's go to the
I've been the rebound guy. It's fun for about 6 months.
Yeah, it is. Chuck Pullen.
Or should we go to Dave Hine first? And it's up. Okay, go to Chuck.
Well,
Okay.
Chuck's probably busy.
Okay. Hey. Speaking of which, are we going to have a Hammond candidate to vote for this time? I think we are. But I think that there is one that we may know the name that may be running. I'm not sure yet.
Well, let's not.
This is, oh, you're such a teasing
Well,
it.
it's good that you're here, Chuck, because really, when it's great spring burn from Ned, because he said it's not a red or blue thing. Chuck was the one that taught me this phrase, like, as soon as they say bipartisan, Ron, you know you are in trouble.
Right, exactly. That means there's enough money for all of them and none of you.
Yeah.
Electric. Oh. Interesting.
So it's like monorail from The Simpsons? North Haver Brook.
And what we had talked about this, but I don't remember exactly. What was the highest speed of any high-speed rail in the U.S.? Like 120? Okay. And weather issues and yeah. Well, and they're just so broke. If they had any money to keep chasing after it, they would. But and this Green New Deal brings up an interesting point, and the second half of the Agenda 21 issue, which is we're going to rebuild our inner cities, just literally tear down as much as we can and rebuild it into more dense, high-rise buildings. Because what we're going to do once we build these high-speed trains between the cities, we're going to force people off of that land outside the city. And we are going to force them to live in the city. And we're going to do that by cutting off electricity. We're going to do that by cutting off the gas supply. You're going to have a couple of wackos that live out in the jungle, but they are going to receive no government services out there. there's going to be no roads. And if there are roads, nobody's going to plow them, nobody's going to repair them, there's going to be no bridges. And so the only way, I mean, again, think of Hunger Games. The only way you go from city to city is with government,
And through doorways, yeah.
with
security
government permission, exactly. Yeah, you mean living out there where everybody's leaving you alone, yeah.
doors. Ah, see, and I want to be your neighbor.
Required.
I heard of this.
How do you make a swimming pool earthquake proof? Doesn't it just become sort of like a jacuzzi if there's an earthquake? You sit in it?
Yeah, boy, did you put some new jets in this thing? Did you put some more jets in this thing? All right, I got it. We'll take it. All right, are we going? Okay, he hung up. All right.
Okay.
All right, we got 3 minutes.
Okay.
What was your
So
next
I just really want people to take a look at the Green New Deal, a critical look at it. There are a lot of components in there that I think as a society, individuals, we should move toward. As a free market system, we should move for. I think that it does not anticipate adequately, as with all government programs, does not anticipate the role of innovation and technology in this.
Right.
But when the plan comes from an admitted socialist, you have to be very leery, okay? Give her credit for admitting she's a socialist. Pete Visklosky is a socialist who does not want to tell you that he's a socialist. One of the things that I didn't get to because we had callers is
Which
that
one?
I'm going to do it right now. In the Marquette Plan and in the RDA Charter, it calls for reclaiming 75% of the lakefront in Indiana and turning it back into nature. Now, to their credit, the incompetent RDA has not reclaimed 1 inch of lakefront. Well, I shouldn't say 1 inch. The Portage Beach, which now then fell off back into the water after they spent millions of dollars on it. But other than that, they haven't even gone to U.S. Steel and said, hey, would you mind giving us land that you're not using? They haven't even asked for that. I mean, U.S. Steel has hundreds and hundreds of acres next to the old National Guard Armory on federal, next to federal property. The RDA is too stupid and incompetent. Repeat that. The RDA is stupid and incompetent to go over there and ask them to donate that land for back to nature purposes. Their mission was to reclaim 75% of the lakefront. Okay? They're not taking Joe Biden's son's house in Long Beach. I can guarantee you that. They're going to take your job at U.S. Steel. They're going to take your job at BP. And they're going to take your job at Middle Steel. And they are going to devastate the economy of the region. They want to take your cars away because they don't like using tax money for roads. Their friends to build high-rise buildings would be much better served with the money that they're spending on roads now.
Tony, put it in here, because this sounds exactly like the results of what he's saying to the movie I described yesterday. I was talking about you ever seen Logan's Run? It's
Years and years ago. That's like an 80s movie.
Now don't listen, because you're going to watch the movie. You get to live to 30, but everything's about pleasure and there's no work, really. Unless you're a Sandman, which is the guy chasing down the people that want to live more than 30 years.
But that's the picture they want to paint for you. But everything's about pleasure for them, and